I want to show these guys, you don't turn in your, you don't quit running, you don't quit biking, you don't quit climbing, you don't quit living just by virtue of some birthdays.
3, 2, 1.
Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race. Heidi here along with Fatty, bringing you the show that answers your questions, gives you training tips, details the course, and tells the stories about the highest and hardest one-day mountain bike race in America, the Leadville Trail 100 mountain bike race. This episode is brought to you by Envy. If you've ever raced the Leadville 100, you've noticed that as you come down Powerline, the trail is littered with people fixing flats. That is not fun, especially at 10,800 feet, especially 90 minutes into a race that you've spent a year preparing for. That's why you owe it to yourself to check out the Envy M Series 525 wheel set. Its wide hookless speed has better flat resistance than other hookless rims, which means you can run lower pressures. That in turn means better traction and less rolling resistance, not to mention a more forgiving buffer between your rim and the trail, which definitely matters in your 6th hour of this punishing race. Check out the M525 and all the Envy products at envy.com. That's ENVE.com. And thanks to Envy for sponsoring the Leadville podcast. If you subscribe to our show in Apple Podcasts, and we hope you do, you'll notice that along with our weekly Season 1 show, we are releasing a half dozen Season 0 shows. They're all coming out at once. This is like binge-style listening. Unlike our regular show, these Season 0 shows are one-topic Leadville race stories. And in this last episode of Season 0, Fatty's bringing back a hard-to-find interview from his old FattyCast podcast, an hour with Leadville Trail 100 founder Ken Chlouber. Fatty and Ken will talk about why and how Ken created the most iconic 100-mile mountain bike and trail running race in America. It's an inspiring episode with a man who will genuinely make you believe you are better than you think you are, and you can do more than you think you can. Fatty, all yours.
Hey Ken, thanks for joining me. I want to go all the way back to before the Leadville 100 races began. You were trained as a miner, you're in Leadville because you're a miner, so tell me what it's like to be a miner in Leadville. And where did the race come from?
It's not like just showing up to work at another job. You've got to get there about 30 minutes early. You have to change clothes. You put on your old muddy diggers from the day before, the self-rescue belt, the headlamp, leather gloves, steel-toed boots, the whole thing. Hard hat, getting ready to go underground, and got a call from my foreman up on the surface, and he said, "I want all the shift bosses come on up. We're having a meeting." And I didn't know what it was, and we all piled in pickups, went up to the foreman's office, and he said, "We're closing the mine. We're shutting her down. Go back and tell your crews to go home. Their unions will be in contact with them." And I'm telling you, Eldon, that hit like a ton of bricks, and that feeling that hadn't left me. I think that may be my motivation for most what I've done since then.
One of those really defining moments, huh?
Oh, overnight, instantly, we became the highest unemployment in the nation.
How many people lost their jobs?
A little old community of 5,000. We lost 3,250 jobs, right?
Goodness.
Just in an instant. And so that was that was really the beginning of everything. Of all the endurance business and everything. Had the Governor Lamb came up to Leadville trying to address the unemployment issue and whatever government could do to help. And I met with him. He said, you got to get people to come to your community to spend money. That's it. Mining's over with for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your tourism, you got your beautiful mountains, you got your history, your heritage. He said, but, and people were coming up to me, Ellen, with all kind of ideas, a fair, a rodeo, a little foot race or something. But in conversation with the governor and an economic developer at the time, he said, the key to getting people to spend money is that they stay overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, well, all right, they're wanting to do this little foot race. We'll just make it 100 miles, and they'll damn sure stay overnight.
And no avoiding
so
it.
that's the width, depth, and breadth of my intellectual capacity there. The mining heritage and reason why I did it myself for so many years in mining underground, I never wanted to ask any of my crew to do anything I wasn't willing to do. Mm-hmm. It was carrying a 10 stick of dynamite back in a draw hole and lighting it and yelling, firing a hole and running out of. I wasn't going to ask them to do anything I wasn't willing to do. Also, I felt the same way about this running 100 miles. I didn't know anything about running 100 miles, but I thought, by God, if I'm going to ask people to run 100 miles, I better get my butt out there and do it too.
So were you any kind of runner? Had you done marathons before?
Hell no, and still don't.
Really?
I'm still no kind of runner. I just the key to it of this endurance business and whatever else you're going to do in life. Key to it is you just don't quit.
Right.
Persistence. Yeah. You quit. Quitting's an easy thing to do, and you don't want to. Once you learn to quit, then it gets easier and easier. So, yeah, I just don't allow that to come in, and that's what I hopefully preach and teach, and that's I think that's probably been the biggest reward out of all this business is we have the original target. We've nailed it. We've helped the economy of this community dramatically with the foot race and then on with the mountain bike race, so forth. But the second and probably the most important contribution we've made is showing people that you be a part of Leadville, be a part of Leadville's history and heritage. Dig deep. That's what these people came here and created these huge fortunes, the Guggenheims, the Betchers, Charles Dow Jones, people that came here and learned to dig deep. And so that's what we share Leadville with the runners first, and now the bikers, and they can take that home and they'll be stronger, better, do more, be more people, and share that with their family, their community, and I think that's probably the most the biggest, the most ongoing contribution right now, at any rate.
Yeah. Now, when you first created this race, were there other 100-mile running races that were out there?
There was the Western States was a couple of years old. Mm-hmm. There was Old Dominion out on the East Coast. I didn't know anything about that. The Nike was just developing their waffle trainer at the time. Running was all brand new.
Yeah.
So and of course not at all didn't know beans about what I was doing. I went out to the Western States race, and because it had gained some popularity, so I entered it. And I'm telling you, Eldon, I was shocked. Because here were people going out there spending their money to run 100 miles, and there were more rules to make so people couldn't be successful. I mean, they would disqualify people if they got if their crews did something that they didn't like or broke some sort of rule. There was all these rules. So I came back to Leadville and I said, we're going to do it different here. These are our customers. We're going to treat them like our customers. We're going to do everything we can to make their time here in Leadville successful. So when they leave here, they won't be less. They'll be more. They'll they'll be stronger, they'll be better, they will have accomplished something. So, so that's, and then Mary Lee, bless her heart, she brought along the concept of family
Mm-hmm.
to this, and that's been one of the magic components of this. We do everything we can. Once that starting gun goes off, nobody's going to cheat. If anybody cheats, they cheat themselves. We've never had any experience with that.
Yeah.
So we do everything we can to get them across the finish line. The one thing we took a little flack about in the beginning, and I guess it's people are kind of over it now, is what they call burrowing, or letting the pacer carry some stuff for the runner. Well, that has deep and abiding mining Leadville history and heritage. The burro is a respected, honored animal here, and he helped that miner get that gold to the courthouse to file that claim, and so we honored that burro. And so we let once the 50-mile mark and they're turning around headed back to the finish line, that pacer can jump in there and whatever he can do to get that runner on down the road. I've told him 1,000 times, I really don't give a damn when your water bottle crosses the finish line. I want you to cross that finish line. So that's been a fun component of and a difference, I think, of Leadville.
So when did you decide that in addition to this run, which had gained some momentum, that you were going to add a mountain bike race to it? And I'm curious also, I also wanted to know the courses are different. And the course that you picked, I think, has wound up being really famous for the type of riding that it encourages. But I don't think you were any kind of cyclist at all. I mean, literally, when you designed this course, were you?
Oh God, and Eldon, I'm still not. I totally depend on divine guidance, divine intervention. So give the good Lord the credit for a whole lot of that. Now we were. I'm going to give myself a little credit. In the beginning with the run, it got real popular real quick, because we had our first race in '83, had about 50 people or so, 10 finishers. '84 had a few more. '85, television came in, Wide World of Sports and so forth, and then every couple of years they'd film it. So by the '90s, the foot race was very well established, and we never let it get out of hand. Always focused on two things. Number one, health and life safety, because we are such a small community. I didn't want to get too many runners out there that our medical community couldn't accommodate. And then number two was the quality of the athletic experience. Didn't want so many runners out there that you're holding hands with somebody the entire race. There's a lot of that time you've got to be running 100 miles. You need to be alone, a lot of it introspective. So just let it grow a little bit each year.
Mm-hmm.
So by up in the 90s, the run was so well established. Sponsors had good interest, good television interest. I was in politics at the time, so wasn't totally devoted to this. We were using the race to serve the community, as we still do today. And it was the sponsors came to me and wanted to do Rockport specifically wanted to do a mountain bike race. And I said, well, no, thank you. I'm pretty busy right now with this. And they said, yeah, mountain biking is, and they convinced me that, this is the coming thing, the new wave of athlete enthusiasm. And I'm thinking, well, that is where maybe I'm not reaching everybody that I should. Maybe I'm not getting the Leadville story, the dig deep, the family, the do more, the be more. maybe I'm not reaching everybody I could. We'll try the mountain bike race. They wanted to do it on the same day of the run initially, and I said, no. It's got to, it's got to live or die on its own wheels. And the commitment from the sponsors was they'd put the run on television. Next week they'd put the mountain bike race on television. So away we went. As far as just selecting the course, I tried to keep it complementary with the run. Some of it is the same, but a lot of it goes along different ways. Just because I wasn't focused. I suppose I've taken a little criticism for this, on single track. Mm-hmm. What I wanted was numbers. I wanted numbers of people and the ability to share and to teach and to preach the strength and power of Leadville to a greater number of people. Well, we've got all this double track. And so a lot of that the old mining roads. Mm-hmm. So that's what I tried to use for them, focused on the mountain bike. Well, that took us to the 50-mile mark, took us right up to the top of 12,600 foot to the Columbine mine.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect turnaround place. Just has all the mystery, the romance, the technical skills required up and down.
It does.
It really fit. But
that's not 50 miles, right? That's 51 and a half.
Now, and I have not. We don't charge extra for that. I want. I've heard that, but that's. I am if nothing else, I am a technological dinosaur. I get out there and I measured that course with my bike and the little wheel counter on the front wheel of my bike. That's the way it was originally measured, one of those little clickers. And I'd go 2 or 3 miles at a time, my bike, and then write it pencil and paper, do it on a map. And but that's how it was established. So to me, it's 50 miles. And all the Garmin, Strava, and all the other people, they seem to think differently. But
if you round it, it's 50. We'll just say that. But when folks ask me important tips, I say it's not over till you're over the boulevard, and when you get to 100 miles, you still got 3.5 to go.
Okay, so, good point. Well taken. Okay.
But that said, we're kind of at the part where I want to talk about traditions, because for me, the Leadville 100 race, and I'm talking about the mountain bike one at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of tradition in it that is pretty important. And I was hoping I could get you to talk a little bit about some of the things that I think about when every year that I am there. I would love to talk about the volunteers and where the buckles come from. And I want to talk about the red carpet, and because that red carpet, you don't know how much that means to us, or maybe you do. But there's all these little things, and where every year I know exactly where Marilee's going to be standing, and I know that you're going to be out there on Columbine, and I expect that all of those probably come from different places, or you weren't thinking anything, but it sort of becomes a tradition. But I'd love to hear about some of those. So I kind of spat out a bunch of them. Let's start with the one everyone thinks of, and that's the belt buckles.
Well, let me give you remember the start of this. Mm-hmm. Remember the start of this was pure the economy. We're all here in Colorado, most all of us here in Colorado, for the quality of life. Quality of life, if you don't have a way to make a living, quality of life sucks. It's painful. When we were all unemployed, when this whole town was unemployed, I can tell you what comes with unemployment. Drug abuse, alcohol abuse, child abuse, spousal abuse, all the abuses just rain terror on people that don't have a way to make a living. So that was the focus. So if I'm going to bring money into this community and spend money, damn right, I could have got those buckles done in China for 10 cents on the dollar. But I've got to have them done right here in Colorado, Colorado Silver Star. Every one of those buckles for 33 years now, run in by, every one of them are different because every one of them are handmade. And every dollar spent right here in Colorado. Used to be all the T-shirts, sweatshirts, everything we did. We turned that money right around here in Colorado because it was important. It was important for people to know that that's what you're doing. You're not just coming to a bike race. You're coming to something that's bigger than. We want it to be bigger than that. Just become a part of you, and you become a part of this, and we'll grow and be more and do more together. Eldon, if I can say one thing, get to talking so much, and maybe some of it resonates with people, some of it doesn't. But if there's one thing I've learned out here, and I've said it a million times, one thing I'd want anybody you come in contact with, to remember that Ken told them, and by God, I've proved it thousands and thousands of times, you're better than you think you are. You can do more than you think you can. If people if they'll just remember that, I'll be happy. I'll be happy.
I think that's, anyone who has ever been to Leadville, I think probably has that imprinted on their brain.
I hope so.
Well, yeah. It's worth noting for those who are listening to this podcast who haven't been to the race, that's one of the things that you tell the folks in the pre-race meeting. And I remember the first time I did that race. Thinking that, got me over some humps that I don't know if I would have got over otherwise. So yeah,
it'll get you over those humps, not only in the race, but it'll get you over those humps in life.
Yeah.
And you and I both have had them, buddy.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah. It put me in. I tell you, it put me in the hospital a few times because at age 60, I took up bull riding again, thinking
you did.
Thinking I could still ride anything with hair and hooves on it. So.
Okay, we got to hear that story. Okay, we're going to back up and let's hear about bull riding. And you say you took it up again. I didn't know you took up bull riding in the first place.
Oh, when I was a kid, growing up in Oklahoma, rodeo was just a way of life. It was just you jump, the other kids that dare you to jump on the back of that bull or something, or some old bronc, and you get your butt kicked. But so I think when I was turned 60. About that same time, somebody invented senior rodeo. I thought, well, hell yeah. Ken, you're better than you think you are. You can do more than you think you can. Get your butt out there and give it a shot. So, I had a guy I knew up in Montana that was one of the founders of the Professional Bull Riders Association. So I called him. I said, "Oh, come on, give me a lesson or two." Mm-hmm. Took me 1 day to drive up to Montana. Took me 3 days to drive back home because I broke all those little transverse processes on your spine. Oh. I come off some bull lit flat on my back. Oh God, just broke every one of those things off. Oh, that's painful. So,
oh boy.
But I kept doing it. I rode bulls here in Eagle and Buena Vista and never. I decided I wasn't going to be. Finally, after a couple of shoulder surgeries, I decided, well, maybe I better go back to running or cycling. But you don't want life. That's part of another story. You don't want life to pass you by. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So, tell me a little bit about some of the, you mentioned family at the beginning of this conversation.
Yeah.
And some of the family I know about, I mentioned a moment ago that I always look for Marilee at a certain point, and we see Marilee throughout, but she's sort of a little bit behind the scenes, or always has been to a degree. But I know she's an important part of the race. Has she been directing and working with you on this race right from the beginning? Tell us a little bit about Marilee.
Well, from day one, in 1982, when that mine closed, Marilee was our local travel agent here in Leadville.
Oh,
and she had a little business, a little office downtown. In 1982, the only people that were traveling was one way. They were leaving town.
Mm-hmm.
And so the travel agency business was nothing, just dissolved. I decided to start this 100-mile race in asking for people to help me. I knew I had one ace in the hole because I knew nobody could really tell me no, that they were busy, because I knew they were just like me. They didn't have a job. So I had plenty of volunteers. But I went down I was needing a race director. I knew that somebody that had, accounting skills, good people skills, bookkeeping, that sort of thing, record keeping, detail.
Yeah, details.
Not
person.
my long suit. So I went down to her travel agent office and explained to her what I wanted to do. I said, "We're not doing this for me, not doing this for you. We've got to save this community, because if we don't save this community, it's going to be a ghost town. We've got to create enough economy that we save there's two things you got to save in any community. You got to save your schools and your hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to generate enough economy to say, I need a race director. You can be my race director." I said, "I promise you, I can't pay you a thing. I don't know if this is going to make a nickel or not. You'll earn zero. I'll double it every year." But so she agreed. She agreed to come on as race director, and she's been that since day one, and been right there on the front lines. Back in the 80s and 90s, there was no computers. We did all this, on paper.
Mm-hmm.
And, she was in charge of all that. But she's the one that brought in the concept of family, because I'm treating everybody. I'm telling everybody, these are customers. In any business that has customers, they want their customers to return. And she says, "No, we want more than that. These are family. We want them to come here. We want them to return, but we want them to be successful. These are our sons and daughters, brothers and sisters, and we're going to treat them that way." And that's the way we do. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and she's, I know that there have been times when she's had health problems that she's nevertheless been right there at the finish line, giving folks a hug and putting medals around their neck. Doesn't look like she should be standing, but she's been standing there for hours. Oh,
for hours, yeah. She's went through, not sure she'd want me to, she is, she's gone through a couple of major surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
She's cancer-free now, tumor-free, and that's really, that's the good news.
It is.
Yeah, there's some still lingering issues, but she's in good health and great spirits. She'll always be the heart and soul of this, the mother of the runners and the riders, for sure.
Yeah. Describing her as a mother is actually just perfect, especially when you think about family. And with that family, I would say there's also a few favorite sons and daughters. Tell me about some of the most amazing finishes you've seen, or some of the most amazing riders you've seen. Who stands out in your mind as people who've done amazing things, either in the running race or the riding race?
Oh, probably the most amazing individual young man's Dave Weens.
Yeah.
I mean, as far from any perspective, an athletic perspective, he kicked Lance Armstrong's butt. He kicked Floyd Landis' butt. He just can't beat him on a bike.
Yeah.
He's in his 50s now, and he's still winning all these qualifying races that we go to around here. But it's not just the athletic Dave Weens. That is a quality man.
Yeah.
I mean, a good family man. He'll do anything for you. When these races are over with, he's the guy that stays and helps you clean up the trash and put things up. And all our races are foot race or bike race. They're out and back, and because that's another thing. I want that last rider to be in contact with that first rider, and Dave, so many times as that first rider, he's always congratulating and encouraging those riders that are coming on. Yeah, he's probably the most amazing guy. But we've the run and the bike too. You can't talk about the run without thinking about the Tarahumara's and that incredible culture of people. What just as far as the ability to run and run free, we get so caught up with, or I do, with the latest equipment, the latest shoes, the latest performance wear. And here these Tarahumaras came and running in sandals, loincloths, and just they were a little bag of corn tied around their neck, which is both food and spiritual. Just amazing things.
Yeah, incredible.
The wounded warriors we've had here in the bike race the last few years. Unbelievable what some of those guys and girls can do. With one young man, no arms. I think this year he might have broke the 9-hour thing. Prosthetic arms breaks by pressing down on the seat with his rear.
That's right.
Yeah, it's Matt DeWitt's his name. Dynamite young man.
Was he the one that Rebecca Rush rode with? This last.
Oh yeah, Rebecca. Yeah. Oh, what a dynamite lady Rebecca is. She's both a champion rider and then a champion person too. They just don't make them better than Rebecca.
Yeah, no question about that.
Yeah.
So I want to come back to your own running of this race. Tell me what it's like to do this as a 100-mile run, because in spite of the fact that I have started the bike race 18 times now, 19 this year, I have no idea and honestly can't even imagine what it would be like to do that for, to be out there for, instead of 10 or 12 or 13 hours, to be out there for 3 times that long.
Well, I could give you probably the opposite perspective on that. There is no way I can sit on that bicycle seat for 12 hours. Oh my God. I'd have to have somebody to have my rear end turns to just solid rock. Oh God, that would hurt. On the run, I can go out there and by myself. I'm not very good in it. Politically, I'm great with a group. Gotta love people, but out on a run, I prefer to be by myself with my own thoughts. And if I want to go a little faster, I go a little faster. I want to go a little slower, whatever, and set my own pace. It's just good, calm, the way the world ought to be. There's no particular skill required. There is that. It does hurt. It will go to hurt, but make pain your friend. You'll never be alone. And but the reward at the end of that run certainly is nothing like going up, trotting up that boulevard toward that red carpet, toward that finish line. And, Mary Lee's there with that finisher's medal. The bike, on the other hand, you can't do that. If you slow down, if you think I'll take a break, that bike will fall over. You got to hammer that thing. That bike doesn't care if your butt hurts. That bike doesn't care if it's going uphill. It demands you keep pedaling. So, yeah, it's a different world. So I have this so incredible amount of respect for the bike race. It wouldn't be fair to talk about the bike race without talking about Lance Armstrong. Lance Armstrong, in my opinion, has just taken the rotten end of the stick. He carried the red, white, and blue of this nation across that Tour de France finish line 7 times. I'm proud of him for doing that. If he did do something drug-wise he shouldn't have done, he just beat them at their own game. And so I'm for him 100%. His performance here in Leadville was spectacular. He came here in 2009, and Dave Ween, let's see, it's 2008. Dave Ween kicked his butt in 2008 and sent him home with his tail between his legs. That inspired Lance to get back on the bike. Lance went back on the tour in 2009. I think he came in 3rd. But then he came to Leadville in 2009. He was fit. Had a flat tire with 7 miles to go. Nobody had ever thought Lance Armstrong had never changed a damn flat tire in his life. Tour de France, they have those guys do that for you. He didn't know how to air it up.
Yeah.
He rode that last 7 miles on a flat tire. Thank God it was one of those tubeless that stayed on the rim, but incredible performance.
So I know that he's been back a couple of times crewing for people. Yeah. I've seen that in Twitter and so forth. Have you ever talked with him or talked with any folks that work with him about him coming back?
Well, of course, just me personally, I'd love for him to come back, but there are the business interest now has gotten so enormous. The public opinion thing for these big companies that sponsor the race, I think all these companies are pretty sensitive to public opinion. Some of the suppliers, so they just want to stay away from that kind of controversy. And Lance understands that, so he doesn't push it. So.
And at this point, I guess it needs to be said that some time ago, and I don't know how many years ago, you sold was it both the races or just the bike race?
I turned everything over.
Okay.
That's a real story unto itself. Remembering that the genesis for this race is singular, to serve this community. Mm-hmm. There was a venture capital company came to me, and this is after, particularly the Lance Armstrong film went worldwide, him winning that race that year.
Right. Race Across the Sky. Right?
Yeah, the venture capital company came to me, and it's an involved story, but they offered a lot of money. I mean, big money, way up into the 7 figures. But they were very upfront about it. They said, what we want to do, we want to make money, and we will take this race, and we will open the doors, and we will take the sponsor money, we'll take the athletes' money, and here's you a great big check, and this is what we're going to do. And I said, no, boys, no thank you. That's not, I live here in Leadville. I'm not going anywhere. So that's not going to do anything for me. And this race has got to serve the community, and it can't. And this is ongoing. Can't be just next couple of years and then few years and then go. So I told him no thanks. And let me tell you, anytime you turn down, that'll give you some sleepless nights. Thinking, oh well, what did I do to my family or whatever it was. There's lots of money on the line, and you tell them no thanks. I'm Lifetime Fitness, Brahma Karate, and just an incredible, probably the most, and I've been, state chairman for both Daddy Bush and George Bush politically. I've been to a lot of big shots. Brahma Karate is probably the most incredible human being I've ever met, both intellectually, morally, and guided it with in the right direction. I was having Christmas. Lifetime was a sponsor, and I was having Christmas dinner with him over Vail. I mentioned that these people wanted to buy the race, and he said, "Well, I'd like, if you want to talk about it, I'll buy it." I said, "Well, you know the deal. It's got to. It would have to serve the community. You can make it grow a lot more than I can. Make it serve the community better, but we've got to keep the foundation going. The athlete that comes here is primary." And he said, "Yeah, absolutely. That won't change." And so I went ahead and made a deal with him. And I can tell you, the check wasn't near as big, but still the races are run here in Leadville, for Leadville, out of Leadville. We still get the buckles and everything done right here in Colorado. Marilee and he says we still have control if we need to. We've never needed to. Everything's going just great. But yeah, so he's kept his word with that. Lifetime's done a great job with these races, and so hopefully years and years into the future too.
When you look at both some of the pros who have raced, such as Levi Leipheimer, Lance Armstrong, Floyd Landis, plus the large outreach that the Lifetime is able to do, I think that, I don't know for sure, I don't have these numbers, but it seems to me that it is harder and harder for a person to get into the race through the old lottery style of entry. So apparently, they're doing a great job of keeping interest really high.
Oh, the demand is incredible. Yeah.
Do you know how many people send in applications every year?
Oh, I can give you a guess. I don't know because it's been several years since I've kept count, but it's somewhere 7,000 to 10,000. I'd say that's just an outhouse guess because the fame, notoriety of the race brand, if you will, is gotten where it's on everybody's to-do list, and so that's what we started, and this is to Lifetime's credit too. Started these qualifying races. Well, not only is this good business for Lifetime, but this is incredible advertisement for Leadville. It is getting more and more of a challenge just to get that entry, for sure.
Yeah. And it might be a little, I think it would be fun to cast back to the first racing of the Leadville 100. How many people were at that one?
I think that very first one, boy, Ellen, and I need Marilee here to confirm these numbers, but it seemed like it was around 250 people.
I think that's about right. I know that So I heard about the first one.
Could be 150.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In any case, it was a reasonably small number, and I know that I heard about the first one. Didn't apply quickly enough to get into the second one, and did get into the third one. Back then, all you had to do in order to get in was mail your entry form in reasonably quickly. You couldn't lollygag to get into the race. I don't remember exactly when it had to move over to a lottery system in order to be fair. But I do remember that for the first couple of years that I did the race, that the starting line did not cross Harrison. That it only went to the road and not 3 blocks down.
Now it's 3 or 4 blocks up the street. Yeah.
When you began this race, 20, and I'm talking about the bike race as opposed to the running race, but 23 years ago, 24 years ago, did you have any, I mean, was it in your plan, in your dreams, that you would get to the place where there were literally 10 times the number of racers as there were in the first race? 10 times.
Eldon, well, I don't want to. Yeah, let's see. I need to be cautious here because but the answer to that question is yes. Yes.
There's nothing wrong with that.
My focus was numbers. My focus was because I wanted to, and my goal still is today. Purpose of life is a life of purpose. My purpose today is if I can share what we've learned in Leadville with these races, with the background of Leadville itself, with its mining history and heritage, it is exactly the exact same qualities, the exact same characteristics, the exact same determination, the grit, the resolve to go into those mines 150 years ago. That same strength is what's required today to finish that 100-mile run or this 100-mile mountain bike race. What I want to do is take that, and we've done it so many times, and I think done it with you too personally. You, our conversations, you felt this. You take that strength that you've learned here, and you apply that to your personal life, to your public life, to your family life, and it's the power is there. So yeah, I've always focused on the numbers, getting more, sharing that with more and more people. In doing that, I will tell you, it's probably frustrated some of the pros because I've had some real hotshot pro racers call me, say, "Hey Ken, you need to let me in because I've won this and I've won that and I've won this." I said, "Well, partner, congratulations, but that's not really my target. I want that guy that's struggling to get up that next step on that corporate ladder, that guy that needs to stay out on that tractor another couple hours, feed his family. That's the guy I want to help." And there's a whole lot more of them than there are just the professional types. So yeah, I've always focused on the numbers, and the only thing that's limiting us now to going into thousands and thousands is just the Forest Service. There are certain limits on the amount of people you can put on the trail, but
that's
if
you had made that, if you had put a lot of single track in this race, that throttling effect would be much lower.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you were talking with someone, if you were meeting someone who is kind of like a younger you now, someone who is in another town that is perhaps having a rough time and was thinking, maybe I can help my town, maybe I can do something big. and maybe they're thinking about a race, or maybe they're in a place where it isn't a race. What would you tell that person? Because in a town that had 60% unemployment or something thereabouts, from what you were describing, I mean, you were the one who had the big dream and actually executed.
Well, yeah. Well, you've got to take, number one, whatever they've got to work with, where if it's whether it's a farming community or a manufacturing community or like ours, a mining community, they still the problems that can be generated with a lack of an economy are still, they're pretty much identical. You've got to. I can tell you right now, where I've tried to talk to some guys, just the point blank things, opportunity that's out there right now in the mountain biking world is these fat tires. I'm telling you, if I was going, time is so much more important to me now than money, or I'd do that. I'd put on a fat tire bike race, 200 miles or whatever. Do it, you could do it in the winter here in Leadville or anywhere else, and that big fat tire bike. That's the immediate future of that I see in biking, of the low-hanging fruit that somebody could go grab right now. But it's just far as say taking a town and using that town's resources. God, that's just the only thing limiting people's their creativity and their imagination.
There's always been a certain heart to the race, that there's a center around family and there's a center around the town. Yeah. I know that whenever I come back to Leadville every year, I'm excited for the race, yeah. But I always do my best to stay in the same place every year, and I always love not just the race itself, but I love just walking up and down the main street and just, going to the place, and I get there usually a week ahead of time. Yeah. And so I'm there for a little bit, for the tail end of Boomtown days, and, going to there's the big street fair going on, and just sort of taking that in, and the feeling of walking around at 10,000 feet, and the difference of how your breathing and your heart rate feels in, the first few days, all of those kinds of things, so that there is a certain feel to it.
And I think there's what you've just mentioned. There's more opportunity here in Leadville that's left totally untouched, that somebody will tap into one of these days. This is one of the most highly mineralized piece of ground on the face of the earth. I kind of got the notion of this riding my motorcycle down in Arizona and stopped by that Sedona, Arizona. They've got these sort of spiritual places around Sedona where people go sit and they communicate with some power bigger than themselves. I'm not so sure that sort of thing isn't right under our feet here in Leadville. If it's the mineralization, I don't know what, but there is a power within this community that exists that's not as definable as probably I would like to try.
Let's talk a little bit for a minute about the volunteers at this race. The number of people who are volunteering, who are actually out there helping, just seems incredible, and and I think have a ton to do with the spirit of the race.
Absolutely.
Where do the volunteers come from? Who? It looks like there's a lot of different groups that are out there manning different stations.
Well, Marilee and I go to a lot of these community meetings and talk to the people and tell them this race is for you. This race is about Leadville. This is what puts Leadville, gives our publicity year round all over the world. And, we need your help. And we can, just this last Thursday, I think we had a very dramatic way to demonstrate to the community what good the races do. Our graduating class, high school graduating class, 48 seniors graduating, we gave every one of them $1,000 scholarship if they would go to some form of higher education. So, and every one of them took it.
That's remarkable.
If you did that 20 years ago, I'll tell you what had happened. You go to that high school, that end of high school was not an open door of opportunity. That was, high school's over with. I'm going to work at the mine. I'm going to work somewhere. Mm-hmm. We want to show them that door at high school graduation is an open door. You take that certificate, you take this $1,000, and you go enroll in a institution of higher education. I don't care if it's a research university or if it's a welding school. You don't stop here. You make yourself better, better for you, better for your family. I'm hoping my target within the next few years is to be able to, and I think I can do this within the next 2 years, to completely fund an associate degree at Colorado Mountain College. I've talked to them out there. That's about $3,400 per student. I think we can raise that, and then of course eventually, when I turned everything over to Lifetime Fitness, we did keep the foundation. Marilee and I still control the foundation. So eventually, yeah, I'd like to go to this high school and tell these kids, you go to college, it's paid for.
That would make, that would change lives. That would change every single person's life in the town.
Yeah. And one of these kids, what happens now at this graduation thing just drives me nuts, because there'll be 3 or 4 kids, well deserving, that get all the scholarships. They'll get thousands of dollars worth of scholarship. Well, that sure. C student, that D student sitting back there, he or she doesn't get a thing. We give them everyone. We give them everyone that opportunity. I'm convinced it's that C student that's going to go out and change the world anyway. It's that C students had to work a little harder, had to dig a little deeper. So it's, but I want to help them all. I don't want to discriminate and say, okay, here, you're a real smart guy. Here's $20,000 here. Here you're not so smart. You go do what you can with your life. That doesn't work. That just doesn't work for me.
And that actually really dovetails nicely with your perspective on getting people into the Leadville race itself. That your interest isn't in so much the hotshot pros as the people like, well, to be frank, me. Well, I have no special skill at mountain biking, but I have tenacity, and over 20 years I've improved my time little by little till I'm one of the reasonably fast guys.
That's what it's about. I'll sleep better tonight because maybe we've helped you. I can't help that pro. I can't help that guy that's going to go out there and do that race in 7 hours. But maybe that guy, maybe that 13, 14-hour rider, maybe I can convince him to dig deeper, and he can bust that 12 hours and go home wearing that buckle.
Oh, yeah. I've been as slow as 11:30, and last year I turned in an 8:12.
No, and boy, that's 8:12. Eldon, that is smoking. Wow.
And how about you? What have I got to do to have you ride along? You and I can do a tandem at Leadville.
I am actually. This goes back to what I was telling you about about my running and my biking, because my birthdays now are a pair of 7s. So, yeah, I'm focusing on that bike now just because it forces me to train. It forces me to get that heart lung sucking down big, forces those legs to go around and push going up that hill. My personal goals right now, what I have learned through the aging process, okay, I've lost the speed. Maybe I can't. I know damn well I can go out and run 100 miles. I don't know that I can. I probably can't run that 100 miles in the 30-hour time limit. What I can do, what I want to do, I've switched over to mountain climbing, and I've made a couple of trips to Nepal. I summited Aconcagua in South America, the second highest of the 7 summits. I summited that a little after my 70th birthday. If within the next couple of years I can summit one of the 8,000-meter peaks, I'd be the oldest American to do so. And my ego doesn't need it. My ego's blue steel. But what I want to do, I want to show these guys, you don't turn in your, you don't quit running, you don't quit biking, you don't quit climbing, you don't quit living just by virtue of some birthdays.
Well, such a pleasure talking with you.
Thank you.
And
appreciate it.
You bet. Give my best to Marilee if you would.
Oh, will do, for sure.
That is it for this episode and for Season 0 of the Leadville Podcast. Thanks for listening. If you haven't yet subscribed, please head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and do so. And be sure to give us that 5-star rating and a review. You see, in the early days of a podcast, your rating makes a real difference in whether other Leadville 100 racers and hopefuls can find the show. For Fatty, I'm Hottie. Be sure to check back on Tuesdays for our regular show. Train well, race hard, and we'll see you at the finish line this August.